Hello, everyone. Richard Phillips back at you with some more modern action. I've got a new computer here hooked up to a large monitor, and I actually hooked up at one of my gig mics right to the computer. So you're listening to me now through a gig mic. Let me know some feedback on the picture quality. This should be in 1080p, and the audio hopefully is a little bit better. I know the audio has been progressively getting better until it suddenly got worse and is hopefully better again now. So give me feedback on that. Today we're playing some more Modern Miracles after Modern Miracles just won a couple of the SCG regionals. It's, I think, relatively well-positioned, slightly better well-positioned than Blue-White mid-range is right now, which I wrote the article about and put the video out about a couple months ago. This is the list that I'm the most familiar with, that I like the best. The one thing this list is playing that some others are not is the telling times. I think that telling time is really important for some of our worst matchups, like Boggles, in order to set up the terminus. Like basically the matchups where you need the terminus or you are going to lose the game. I like the telling times in those matchups. It is a 24 land deck. We have a lot of basics and only 3 colonnades because that's not really how we win the game. 4 fetches, 2 shocks, 1 glacial fortress, 4 field of ruins, 5 1-mana removal spells. We added a condemn because it's important that we stay alive. We've got 8 cantrips, 2 search for Escantas, 2 snaps, 2 logic knots. Logic knots could be mana leaks, but because of the way that the format is headed right now, I think Logic Knot's certainly better in mirrors or games that are grindy. So I think I like Logic Knot. I've been back and forth between Mana Leak and Logic Knot. Mana Leak's a lot easier to cast on our basic heavy mana base. I made the decision with this list that I don't want to lose to Blood Moon very often. And usually, even hands that I'm not expecting to face against a Blood Moon, I can still at least cast my spells with all these islands and the 3 planes. We have a Detention Sphere to kind of catch everything, a Timely Reinforcements because I'm expecting a lot of aggro and burn. We've got 5 Sweepers, 1 Verdict, 4 Terminus. We got 3 Cryptic Commands, 3 Jaces, 1 Teferi, and an Entreat the Angels. Between Entreat and Jace are our 2 main win conditions. Our backup win con is our Colonnade Beats. Out of the sideboard, I kind of split it up here. We have some more removal or interaction here. Ghostly Prison and Vendilion Click come in specific matchups. Vendilion Click's really good at pressuring our opponent as well as disrupting them. So great against decks like Storm or KCI, stuff like that. We got Baneslayer and Angel and Elspeth for our grindy matchups. And then here's our Sordid Hate cards. We got 2 Damping Spheres, 2 Stonies, 2 Rest in Peace. Hopefully this will give us at least a little bit of game against Dredge and Storm and Tron. With that, guys, we'll jump into a league. Hope you guys enjoy this. This will be fun. Make sure you leave some comments about the new stream or the new video recording setup. I'd love to improve, and let me know what you'd like to see. All right, guys, we've won the dice roll here. We will be on the play, and we will definitely keep this hand on the play. I think we are going to Serum Visions on turn 2. We will opt at the end of our opponent's turn because we don't really know exactly what we want. We don't know what kind of deck our opponent's playing. We definitely will need at least 1 more land. So we'll just go ahead and play that island and pass. Polluted Delta probably means some sort of shadow deck. Yep, some sort of shadow deck. Probably Sultai? Inquisition. I think we're fine just with our opponent Inquisitioning this hand. They'll probably take either Opt or Serum Visions, and then we'll just cast the other one during our turn. I'd much rather them take an Opt than us have like a Search for Escanta on top, and they take that instead. I doubt they'll take the Timely. If they take the Timely, then that means they have a very aggressive hand, and we might be dead if that's the case. We're certainly not going to be able to gain life off the Timely. It might make 3 tokens, but a 3-mana token generator for 3 isn't precisely where I want to be. Opponent's really thinking. They take the opt. Okay, so they don't want us to be able to set up anything. All right, so we're definitely going to play this Serum Visions. I'm not playing this land yet because if we draw a tap land here, I'd want to play that instead. All right, and we have 2 lands on top, and we'll just keep them top because we want to draw both of them. So we'll play this Plains and pass. If our opponent plays a creature here, we will almost certainly just fire off the Timely Reinforcements to block. Okay, there's a Tarmogoyf, so we will definitely just go ahead and play the Timely Reinforcements. Because we know there's a land on top. We don't even necessarily have to chump with our soldiers yet. And we probably won't here. Because we can use it to protect Jace. So I'm definitely just gonna take it here. All right, so based on, we can hopefully guess our opponent's hand based on what they take with this Thought Thieves. If they take the Verdict, that means it's creature heavy. If they take the Jace, that means it's threat light. All right, they take the Verdict, so I'm assuming that means they have multiple Death Shadows. So there's probably going to be a Death Shadow right here, would be my guess. We can also try to figure out how many lands our opponent has based on whether or not they play one here. If they don't play a land here, that means that, okay, so they do play a land. All right, so they have a shadow, and they pass. So this leads me to believe that they probably have a Stubborn Denial in their hand. So I would prefer to not get hit with a Stubborn Denial on either of these spells, especially our Cryptic Command. So I think what I'm going to do here is fetch first to get a white-blue land tapped, and then play the Serum Visions. If our opponent would like to counter the Serum Visions, they may go ahead and do that. Okay, it's a Terminus. We are going to want... I don't know how we should stack this. I think we want the Search for Azcanta. So we'll top that, and we'll top the Search for Azcanta. And we'll start to use these tokens to chump block. Maybe we didn't want either of those cards. Maybe we were just supposed to bottom. I could definitely see us losing this game. All right, so it is a 4-color shadow build. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to throw one in front of each of these, I believe. Just preserve our health total here. If our opponent double strikes, that's fine. All right, our opponent plays a Grim Flare. So here we'll play the Search for Azcanta, and if it flips, because it'll be able to flip next turn, then we can cast the Terminus. So we just have to hope that our opponent doesn't have Stubborn Denial or anything like that. Because we're going to get hit by, or we're going to get destroyed by a Temur Battle Rage or a, what's the card called? Yeah, we're just in really bad shape here. I'm going to block here with this soldier. I don't expect us to live through this turn. And even if we do live this through this turn, I don't expect us to live through next turn. Because we're going to have to mill a land and then put a land on top. Or draw a land. Or be able to use Cryptic Command to tap down our opponent's team many times. Our opponent should fetch here with the Verdant Catacombs before the Grim Flare trigger goes on the stack. But yeah, we just drew a very wrong half of our deck. The only spells we've cast this game are Serum Visions and Timely Reinforcements and a Search for Azcanta. Opponent aggressively shocks in. Okay, and they have the Battle Rage, so we are dead. All right, so post-board, this matchup, hopefully... Well, even pre-board, this matchup's pretty good, but we got, I think, a little bit unlucky. Let's see if we can make these cards a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so cards I like in this matchup. Blessed Alliance is really good, Condemn's really good, Celestial Purge is really good, and Rest in Peace is really good. Rest in Peace shuts down a lot of what our opponent's trying to do. Cards that aren't great in the matchup are Cryptic Command. I really don't like Cryptic Command. I don't like a Jace. I think that's just too many. I'm not a huge fan of Logic Knot either. So I like cutting those 6 for sure. And these 5 are pretty good. What we can do is keep in maybe 1 Logic Knot. Also, Timely doesn't necessarily do too much. So maybe we'll bring in the Click too. So we'll bring in Click that Baneslayer Angel actually provides a pretty solid clock for our opponent. So we can cut these things, and then we can cut a Search for Azcanta, because hopefully we're going to be able to play Rest in Peace. Snapcaster at least is a clock and a blocker, but Search for Azcanta does very little in the matchup or if we have a Rest in Peace. So maybe like this, bring those in. Sometimes the Dispel's fine too. It's a cheap piece of counter magic. So maybe we can bring that in and cut a single Snapcaster Mage. I guess in the matchups, though, where we don't have Search for Azcanta, I do like having both snaps. So maybe we'll cut the Timely, because the Timely doesn't necessarily do too much. This hand has too many Terminus effects, so we'll mulligan that. This hand is not great because it's got the Entreat the Angels in it, but hopefully we can brainstorm it away, and our opponent can't steamroll us. We will definitely keep a Rest in Peace on top. That is perfect. So I will probably just play this island and not even opt or anything like that. We know the card on top and we really like it. Okay. Our opponent might have a counter spell, so I guess we'll just opt here. The fact that our opponent didn't play anything leads me to believe that they have a counter spell. So our question here is, do we need to just jam this Rest in Peace, or can we wait another turn? The fact that our opponent didn't have a hand disruption spell on 1 leads me to believe that we can probably wait a turn. So I'll play this Flooded Strand here and pass the turn. If our opponent has a Thoughtseize effect here, that's not good for us, but they didn't have one last turn, so they probably would have had to just draw it. Oh, wow. Okay, so Collective Brutality, we will use our opt now. And I guess we can keep... Yeah, I guess we'll keep an opt on top. And then we'll fetch and shock and opt again. This is just adding an extra card into our graveyard. But it's also digging us... I guess we could have put it on the bottom. This digs us, I guess, one more card deep. Oh, Jace is great. Yeah, so we'll keep Jace on top, so that way our opponent has to take the Entreat the Angels. And then we can play Rest in Peace into Jace and hope our opponent can't really interact with us very well from there. Sweet. No on the Terminus. That's unfortunate. We'll play an Island and the Rest in Peace. This let us place it around Stubborn Denial. Rest in Peace totally turns off our opponent's Tarmogoyfs, makes their Grim Flayers a lot worse, turns off all their Delve threats and their Snapcaster Mages if they play them. Okay, our opponent will Thoughtseize the Jace. It's a good draw from our opponent. All right, so our opponent has a Grim Flare, so they will be able to set up some of their draws. We are just going to go ahead and right now get rid of their Godless Shrine because I highly doubt they have a white source in their deck other than the Godless Shrine. And we want a Plains, I guess. We'll pop out our opponent's Exile Zone and we'll see what cards they put in there and which ones they leave on top. We do need to draw. Did we bring in Elspeth? I guess we could have brought in Elspeth in this matchup. Elspeth's still there. Maybe it was wrong to board out Elspeth or to keep Elspeth out. I don't know. All right, so our opponent doesn't want an Inquisition. That's fine. And they want the other two. Interesting. Okay. See if they have any more creatures or anything like that to deploy. Our best draw here might be Teferi. Okay, our opponent's just going to take the Terminus. That's fine. And a Death Shadow? No, another Grim Flare. Okay. All right, we drew a path. I guess we should just go ahead and use it now while our opponent is tapped out. Okay, our opponent does not have another basic in their deck, or they have it in their hand. So that's good to know if this is going to go to a game 3. Our opponent drew a card, 2 cards. So they drew a card that they knew they wanted. Lingering Souls, so we got rid of their white source, which is good. We couldn't probably beat the Lingering Souls anyway. The fact that they binned a second Stubborn Denial leads me to believe they might have one in hand. All right, so there's Terminus. We will definitely cast it for 1. And now both of us need to draw some threats. Or something to do, at least. I'd even take, like, a search for Escante here. All right, Metamorphose. Okay, so it looks like our opponent might have a Lingering Souls in hand that they're trying to cast. A Bauble. Okay. They're going to Bauble targeting me, so they know what card I'm drawing. Ooh, Ranger of Eos. Wow, that is a beating. All right, so they get to take a couple of Death Shadows. All right, and they get to draw a card here. So they have a Death Shadow in hand, an unknown card. Okay, we drew Jace. I think we just need to cast Jace and Brainstorm with it to try to set up Terminus for next turn. None of those are any good. So I guess we will put back... Probably just put back Jace, Teferi, play a Plains, and pass the turn. But yeah, this Ranger of Eos was a great draw from our opponent. We're just buried now. Opponent can drop us down to 2. All right, so they're going to drop us to 5. So we'll have to use Teferi to bounce the Death Shadow. Because we know that the top card of our library is bad. Yep, and that's just the game. All right, guys, welcome to round number 2. We've won the dice roll. And this hand needs a little bit of help, but I think we'll keep it. We'll opt based on what our opponent's playing. We do need lands. Aether Vial? Oh, okay, so this is Soul Sisters. Interesting. That's... Field of Ruin is actually really bad in this matchup. It does not help us whatsoever draw lands. Or it doesn't help, fix our mana colors if our opponent's just going to play a bunch of Plains. All right, because we drew a Serum Visions, I think I'm going to cast the Serum Visions here, and we will set up this Terminus so that Terminus is second from the top, and Glacial Fortress is on top. So next turn we will not trigger Terminus, but we will be able to trigger it the following turn by not even casting any spells. Okay. That's fine. All right, so now we have our white source. If we can end of turn use the Telling Time to draw hopefully a land, and then still be able to use the Terminus that's on top of our library. That's kind of our hope here. Because our opponent's definitely overextending here. So we're going to get a nice 3-for-1 out of this. That's fine. So we'll take the damage. And cast the Telling Time. We'll leave the Terminus on top. So we want this island, and we'll put the Terminus on top. And then we will Miracle the Terminus. And then we'll double Serum Visions. If our opponent's smart here, they're going to upkeep Ghost Quarter the Glacial Fortress. Nope. Okay, so our opponent should have absolutely just Ghost Quartered this Glacial Fortress because we would have had to search for a land because we wouldn't have been able to cast the Terminus anyway. So we'll go ahead and do that. Terminus. Play a Serum Visions. Okay, we drew a tap land, so I guess we'll just play that instead. Do we want any of these cards? I guess the Logic Knot's probably fine, because then we can play Teferi and hold up Logic Knot. So we'll bottom the Flooded Strand, top the Logic Knot, and just play the Celestial Colonnade tapped. All right, I still like, I think here we'll just jam the Teferi, and then we can path maybe like the Ajani's Pride Mage, and Teferi can take a little bit of damage, and it won't be, too bad for us. All right, our opponent's going to attack Teferi, it looks like. No, attack us. They don't care about Teferi. Attack us, attack Teferi. All right, that's fine. Teferi will take some damage. We're going to hold up the Logic Knot. Yep, that is something we will definitely Logic Knot. All right, so we'll counter that unless our opponent pays 2. Done. All right, we would like to draw a land here, so we're going to Serum Visions, hopefully put a land on top, then plus Teferi, and draw that land, which is a cool bit of sequencing you can do to try to hopefully make sure you hit your land drops. Of course, I'll say that now we'll bottom 2 non-lands. I probably should have kept the 1 land on top that we had before, but we should be fine here. We can play the Search for Iskan to untap 2 lands, then double path our opponent's board. All right, so we did draw land, actually. I think we also want Jace, and I think we want Colonnade. So we can actually play Jace, and then we can double path our opponent's board this turn. So we will top that, and then we will draw a card, and then we can cast Jace. Draw 3 cards, put back a Terminus. Okay, our opponent concedes the match. Yeah, so they knew that they weren't going to be able to fight through all this, and they're just done, ready to move on to the next game. All right, guys, welcome to round number 3. We are 1-1 so far after soundly defeating a Soul Sisters deck and losing horribly to a Shadow deck. All right, this hand is something. This is definitely close, this hand. It doesn't have any turn 1 interaction. It does have turn 2 interaction. It hopefully can find lands. I think we keep this on average. It's got the Terminus, which isn't very good, but I think these 5 are better than an average 6. Okay, it's a mirror match art, so it's important that I play a little bit on the faster side. We'll definitely just play Colonnade and pass. Mirror matches are actually very difficult to win with this deck because we have significantly fewer threats than they do. If they play a Search for Azcanta here, it's probably about over. Yeah, okay, so now we need to figure out a way to get that Search for Azcanta off the table on the rather early side. We will go ahead and get a Plains here and pass the turn, playing around Shadow of Doubt. All right, our opponent mills a land. We need to draw our own lands here. See if our opponent wants to counter a Telling Time, please do. No. All right, so we'll put an island in our hand, I guess, and a Timely on top. All right, and then during our upkeep, we will cast another Telling Time because we don't want to draw that Timely reinforcements for the turn. That's like a dead draw. If our opponent counters this, that's fine also. Okay, so this is a lot better. So we will put Hallowed Fountain in our hand, Flooded Strand on top. Draw the Flooded Strand. Fetch with the Flooded Strand. Island, play Serum Visions. All right, so we kind of worked that out. We don't want Path. We do want Cryptic Command. All right, our opponent's just going to put in a Snapcaster Mage, which is a very common play in this matchup. Fortunately, our life total is still very high. Okay, our opponent's on Jeskai. That's good to know. I was not expecting Jeskai, but... Where's my mouse? There it is. All right, so Cryptic Command's the card that we're drawing for the turn, which we knew about. We will play a Field of Ruin here and pass. We have Cryptic Command up. We can also path our opponent's creature end of turn, which we probably will do. Helix us, that's fine. All right, opponent kept the card, so they like it. We'll let that hit for now. That's fine. The end, so our opponent has... So we'll just go ahead and path this. If our opponent wants to fight over this, we'll just let whatever they do resolve. No, okay. Now we're going to Field of Ruin a red source, because a lot of these decks actually don't play a basic mountain. Snap Helix. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so we're down to 8. Now, hopefully we can opt into a Planeswalker here and resolve it. That's kind of what we're hoping. That would be, you know, like the most ideal thing here is to opt into a Planeswalker. That's not a Planeswalker. And that's a Timely. All right, well, actually, Timely's suddenly really good now that our opponent's at Jeskai build. Actually, one of the better cards we could have drawn there. So we'll cast it, knock ourselves back up to 14 and have 3 blockers and play a tap land and pass the turn. Wow, so suddenly Timely Reinforcements became a great draw now once we figured out that our opponent was on Jeskai. Opponent has 5 cards in their graveyard and no red mana as of now, and they missed a land drop last turn. Okay, our opponent plays a Teferi and a tap land and draws a card, and we'll get to untap 2 lands. All right, we drew a path. So we will go ahead and pressure the Teferi. right, so our opponent does want to block. Our opponent will get to flip their Search for Azcanta here. So we need to find a way to interact with the Search for Azcanta. Our opponent has played a land this turn, so actually, and they have not done anything with this Teferi. So what I like doing here is Cryptic Command, returning the Teferi to our opponent's hand, and drawing a card. Oh, and tapping. Crap. I made the wrong mode on that. Should have been draw a card. So we'll be down a card, but that's fine. Maybe our opponent will fight over this, because they will not be able to play the Cryptic Command. All right. So we should be up another card. That was definitely my bad, and it's very important that we have all the cards in this matchup. Our opponent reveals another Search for Azcanta, which is definitely not that threatening, now that they have the first one already. Okay, that's fine. There's a Hollow Fountain. We currently have... This will drop us to 12 if we play it. No, let's just not pay 2 life. And we'll attack our opponent here for 2. All right, our opponent mills a Bolt, which is interesting. Leads me to believe that they need counter magic or are light on counter magic, or they have no good way to turn the corner, or they have a Snapcaster Mage in hand. Could be any of those things. It's the one thing it isn't, though, is that they don't think that this game is going to be over quick. They think that this is in for the long... maybe that's not even true. All right, them having this many Celestial Colonnades actually isn't great for us here. Maybe we're supposed to force some action here. We'll cast a Snapcaster Mage and draw a card with Opt. Or with Telling Time. With Telling Time. That's what we should do. Yeah, okay. So that resolves. Choose Telling Time. And we'll tell some time. We will put Logic Knot in our hand, Opt on top. All right, and we will try to opt into a Planeswalker here. Ooh, Detention Sphere. Currently not doing anything, but it'll be important if our opponent tries to resolve Teferi. We'll attack our opponent for 4 here. All right, so it's not... Our opponent can't just do nothing now, because we are pressuring them. Not well, but we are pressuring them. Our opponent finds... what card? They're ahead on lands. We're ahead on cards. It's even now. Okay, so a Logic Knot. Opponent kept the card in their hand. So it's probably not a land. Okay, so Supreme Verdict. Yeah, that's fine. I guess. I mean, it's not like we can do anything about it. Opponent plays a Hollow Fountain, shocks it in, and passes. That way they can activate as Kanta and also still cast Logic Knot. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, there's not much we can do about that. We hit our land drop. I don't know what the chances are our opponent has paths in hand, but we're not really doing anything with our mana here. I think the later this game goes, the more unfavored we are because we just haven't hit as Kanta. Yeah, it's just not good for us here. Okay, so now they have Cryptic Command and Logic Knot that we know of. They also have Teferi in hand. So they have Cryptic Command, Logic Knot, Teferi in hand. They don't want to land. These are the cards we know about. Okay, our opponent's going to get in with a Colonnade. I think we'll just go ahead and path that. If our opponent wants to fight on this axis, I think we're fine with it. Wow, our opponent's going to cast a giant Logic Knot here. This makes me just want to bounce their as Kanta land because they won't be able to effectively flip search for another couple of turns. This is a really interesting line. So they're countering it unless we pay 8. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up. So what if I counter... We know they still have Logic Knot, so we'll have to Logic Knot, but we'll counter target spell. So counter this and return this as Kanta to our opponent's hand. Now our opponent will Logic Knot it back. Oh no, we knew that they... Oh, so they have Cryptic Command. Interesting. So our opponent will have 4 cards in their library. Oh, it does look like they had another Logic Knot. Oh, this is good. That means they're going to even have to exile another card from their library. So they're going to be really far from flipping their other Azcanta. And then this bouncing this Azcanta back up to their hand doesn't really do anything. All right, so countering it unless we pay 4, and we will just counter their Logic. We know that they have a Cryptic Command, which is a little scary. But we will counter that. I don't think I missed anything, but we'll counter it unless they pay 2. So that's good. That bounces that. And then the path will path that. They only have 2 cards in their library, so their Azcanta is not going to flip again for a while. And they're probably going to try to cast Teferi during their turn. We know they have Cryptic Command still, so I guess we have to hold off. We should have attacked there. We should have definitely attacked. Nah, I don't think that was smart on my part. We should have attacked our opponent there, and then our opponent would resolve Teferi. All right. So I think we let Teferi resolve because we know they have Cryptic Command. We want to do this as mana efficiently as possible. Because we want our Cryptic Command to resolve, not their Cryptic Command to resolve. And the way that happens is if we fight over the Teferi during our turn. The other thing is that our opponent is much lower on clock than us, so I'm very much happy to push this game as long as possible. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, cast the Detention Sphere. Our opponent needs 2 counter spells in order for this to work. And I think just based on the way that our opponent has their mana, it's going to be hard. Okay, so there's that. So then we will counter this Cryptic Command and draw a card. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if our opponent has another... Okay, so our opponent doesn't even have a Logic Knot, which is great. We will get rid of their Teferi. And if our opponent wants to spend their whole turn hitting us for 4, I think we're fine with that. There's a Field of Ruin. That's a good draw. So is the Logic Knot. So we will top the field, top the Logic Knot. That way we can cast our own Search for Azcanta and protect it. Opponent's aggressively going to 9. What is this? That's 6 mana. They tapped 6. Oh, Elspeth. Okay. Well, Elspeth's going to be really hard to beat. They left up 4 mana here. We will cast a Search for Azcanta, and then we can use our Terminus to get rid of their soldiers next turn, maybe. Okay, so there we go. That Search for Azcanta resolves. But beating the... I wasn't expecting a main deck Elspeth. I can tell you that. All right, so our opponent says Kanta is going to flip now, but they lost like 3 cards off of the... Oh, no, it's not flipping yet. Okay. There's a Field of Ruin on top of our library. Okay, interesting. Our opponent has their own Field of Ruin. So I guess we don't want to search with the Search for Azcanta because we know that there's a Field of Ruin on top of our library. This game's pretty much lost. I'm only playing this out because it eats up clock from our opponent. All right, so no, we don't want to put that, and no, we don't want to transform it. We want to draw that. Okay, so we will do the same thing that we were kind of forcing our opponent to do. The next turn we'll be taking 6, 7, 8, 9. So I guess we kind of have to cast this now. There's 5, 6. We'll cast a Terminus. Okay, we actually might get like a full blowout here. So Cryptic Command, countering that and returning the Detention Sphere. So we have to counter it unless you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need to counter it unless our opponent pays 6. We're not going to use that path or that Timely probably, or the Snapcaster Mage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're paying 6, so we're countering this unless our opponent pays 6. If they have another counter spell, then they kind of got us here. But if not, it's going to take them a few more minutes to beat us, and that's kind of the goal here. All right, cool. So that's good, and we get their Snapcaster Mage in the process. And our opponent's going to Field of Ruin our Field of Ruin. Sweet. That'll actually save us even more time here. Because that way our opponent can't really attack us with their Colonnade. I mean, I guess they can, but it's probably not good for them. Our out here is that we need to draw Entreat naturally off the top. Sure. At the beginning of combat step, I will path it so that they cannot use that mana inside of combat. Our opponent does not have any more basics, so it is interesting to note that our opponent only has 4 basics in their deck. All right, let's rip a Entreat the Angels here. Yes, we'll put that in the graveyard. Yes, we'll transform it. All right, Teferi. Teferi's not that, but it's pretty good. We can bounce the Elspeth out of the way. Our opponent will be able to kill it, but this will answer the Elspeth at least in the interim. Our opponent will probably just search it up again, though. Still buys us a little bit of time. Perhaps we should have just drawn a card with the Teferi and seen if it was something good. Sure. They got the Elspeth. All right, so 2 are coming at us, 1's coming at Elspeth, so it's worth trying to find a path here. I don't believe Entreat the Angels is going to be big enough to win. Oh, yeah, I guess it might be. All right, so our out here now. Oh, our opponent can just use Elspeth to minus, to destroy the 4 or greater. All right, so I guess we're supposed to take the Supreme Verdict, put those back in any order, and then we'll need to somehow shuffle. All right, we draw planes. So we will start off by activating Escanta to see if there's anything better to do with our mana other than just cast Verdict. There's a Jace. We're going to be 1 mana off doing both things. So put these back in any order. We'll cast the Verdict. Opponent finds a Cryptic Command. All right, they're going to aggressively attack us down to 5 here. get back our mouse, which ran off on me. All right, we drew a Field of Ruin, which is a good draw. We'll cast the Jace into our opponent's Cryptic Command. So our opponent will probably Cryptic Command this Jace. All right, so they're countering it and drawing a card. So if we hit here exactly Logic Knot, we'll be okay. No, we do not. All right. We will... I guess we'll just take an opt here. That's fine. And we'll opt in response. All right, we just drew an island. So we are, unfortunately, super dead. But we're going to make our opponent click through a little bit here. All right, and then they have a Helix. Okay. So our opponent is down to 9 minutes and 44 seconds on the clock, which we need to take into account a little bit when we sideboard here. So cards I like here, Vendilion Click, Terminate, Dispel. Rest in Peace is probably worse for our opponent than it is for us. Elspeth is great. Baneslayer Angel is actually pretty good. Celestial Purge might have some targets. Like if our opponent's playing Keranos, it's a good target for it, but I think that's a little bit too narrow. So maybe I like these 7 cards that we can take out would be the Terminus. I like keeping in a Verdict in case our opponent is bringing in something like Geists. I want to be able to have access to it. I don't like Condemn at all. 4 Paths is probably too many. I think we'd be fine with just 2. The Timely Reinforcement was really good there, but probably not in general. So maybe... Yeah, I think maybe I like Timely, honestly, a little bit more than I like some Paths. Because if our opponent is going to use Snapcaster Mages and stuff like that aggressively, I want to be able to cast something to help us gain some life. So just for the record, it took our opponent 14 minutes to win game 1, and they only have 9:44 for this game. This hand is great. It's mostly lands. It needs an Escanta, but, I mean, every hand needs an Escanta. So we'll play Colonnade and pass. Vendilion Click's a good draw. All right, so we'll just play another Colonnade. Get our tap lands out of the way. If our opponent has Escanta here, it's going to be bad news for us. Okay. So the bad news is starting. We'll definitely opt here. Unfortunately, we can't really gain any value off of that, so we'll put it at the bottom. All right, there's a Plains. I think here I like just main phasing this Vendilion Click. Targeting our opponent. All right, so our opponent also has a Vendilion Click. They have Snapcaster Mages, Dispels. They need lands. Honestly, maybe we should just take their Vendilion Click and try to beat them that way. Yeah, honestly, don't hate that. We'll take their Vendilion Click and try to beat them that way. So they no longer have Vendilion Click in their hand. See what they put in their graveyard. They drew it. Okay, it was a Hallowed Fountain. So currently their hand is just these cards that we know about already. And we drew a Search for Escanta. Our opponent just has Dispel and Cryptic Command, so we can definitely resolve this. Oh, no, our opponent had Path. Oh, okay, so they drew this off of the other. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense. There was one more card that we didn't know that our opponent had. So now we know their hand. Okay. Our opponent mills a second Search for Azcanta. So we still know their hand minus the draw step, which was a Flooded Strand. Okay, so we do still know their hand. They have Snapcaster, Snapcaster, Dispel, Cryptic Command. We would love to put a Plains in our graveyard. We will definitely cast the Serum Visions. Rest in peace. Don't think we want either of these. Cast another Serum Visions. Try again. Jace is a good one. All right, so we will bottom the Field of Ruin and top the Cryptic Command and set up next turn for the turn that we want to try to fight over Jace the Mind Sculptor. Okay, our opponent plays a Snapcaster Mage. That's fine. They might path their own Snapcaster Mage just to gain a land. Okay, they are not. So we know our opponent has Cryptic plus Dispel. So something that we can try to do here is play this Telling Time and put a bad card on top that we'll mill with Search for Azcanta. If our opponent wants to just Cryptic this or something, that's fine. Counter it and draw. Sure, that's fine. All right, so we would not like to put Cryptic in our graveyard. We would like to draw it. We would like to play a Jace. We would like to Brainstorm with it because it's still dead to a Bolt because our opponent has the Snapcaster Mage. All right, so next turn we can flip our Search for Azcanta and then Rest in Peace, hopefully. That would be like almost ideal. And we will put back 2 lands and play a Flooded Strand that we will use to fetch away the other cards. All right, so during our upkeep, we will fetch with the Flooded Strand. We'll just go ahead and get a Plains. Timely Reinforcements. Actually, we would not like to put that in the graveyard. We would like to draw that, and we would love to transform Search for Azcanta. Our opponent casts a Vendilion Click. Okay, so we are going to counter Vendilion Click, bounce the Snapcaster Mage, cast Rest in Peace. Oh, I guess we can tick up with the Jace. No, I think I kind of like that. So we will counter. If we draw a land, then this makes it a lot easier. All right, so we know our opponent has Dispel in hand. Okay, so we know our opponent has Dispel. So I think we just let this resolve. Yeah, I'm fairly sure that's what we're supposed to do. So we're going to let this resolve. Yeah, and then our opponent can look at our hand. That's fine. Our opponent probably needs to take the Rest in Peace here. They took the cryptic command. That's interesting. All right, so we will draw with the Jace here. All right, we drew basically perfect. We'll put back Search for Azcanta and Opt. We'll play this island. We will path the Vendilion Click. Our opponent will dispel that. We will Lodging Knot the Dispel, counter it unless our opponent pays, like a arbitrarily large amount of mana. Targeting the Dispel. Okay, done. We're getting a little bit low on clock here, which is why I'm a little bit worried. All right. So now the path resolves. All right, then we play Timely Reinforcements. And then we play Rest in Peace. Opponent exiles an Arid Mesa. Okay, our opponent uses their cryptic command to just bounce our Search for Azcanta, and we are actually and tap our team so they could kill. Okay, that was wow, that was really good from our opponent. All right. So we draw an Opt. We know that there's a Search for Azcanta on top of our library, and we don't want that, so we will opt away our Search for Azcanta that's on top. Put that on the bottom. We drew another land. All right, so we'll play the Search for Azcanta, and we will fetch and start beating our opponent down. If our opponent has more paths, that's good for them. Our opponent just cast a naked Snapcaster Mage. Okay. Sure. That's interesting that our opponent is very worried about these beatdowns that we're hitting our opponent with. All right, we can kill the Teferi. So our opponent needs to draw a path, because right now we can deal it 5 damage. Our opponent drawing a Colonnade is a good draw for our opponent. So they need to have, like, Path or Bolt or something. No. Let's keep that. All right. 2, 3, 4, 5. We will activate that Celestial Colonnade. And then we will send everything at Teferi. Sure, that's still 5 damage. Okay. We will opt. Bottom of land. Okay, Verdict. That could be important if the if our opponent plays like a Secure the Wastes or something. Opponent left the card on top, which was probably the Serum Visions. Man, these soldiers from the Timely Reinforcements have been putting in absolute work this game. What did our opponent do with that? So they scried one to the top and one to the bottom the first time. And now they put 2 cards on the bottom. Oh, our opponent found a Field of Ruin. Okay. Put Field of Ruin into your graveyard. No. We like that Field of Ruin. We'll draw the Field of Ruin. And we will Field of Ruin our opponent's Colonnade. Also, they've put 3 cards on the bottom now. we'll get an island. We are going to make our opponent use their Field of Ruin on our Colonnade because we have another one here. Okay. Opponent kept the card, which is interesting. Field of Ruin. Yeah, let's put that in our graveyard. It might be helpful later, but it's not helpful right now. All right. We're not currently... Okay, so our opponent... Oh, it's during our main phase. Oh, yes. All right, so we'll float mana. Sweet. So our opponent did this during our main phase, which is great. We'll get our last land. And we'll try to jam this Baneslayer Angel. Okay, our opponent has a counterspell. Counter it and draw a card. Okay. All right, so the nice thing about the way that our deck's constructed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So there's only 6 lands left in our deck. Our opponent drew a land, which is always good for us at this point in the game. Negate in our graveyard. No, we would like to draw that. And we'll continue beating down with this soldier, which has killed a Teferi, and now I think dealt something like 6 damage to our opponent. Something just crazy, absurdly high. Oh, opponent finding a Celestial Colonnade is very good for them. Yeah, we'd love to put that. So now there's 5 lands left in our deck. There's telling time. I think I like just firing that off here. We would love to... Oh, man, all of these cards are so good. Let's take the Teferi now, and we'll leave the Field of Ruin on top of our library. So then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cast Teferi. Negate the Cryptic Command. Draw with the Teferi. Play the Field of Ruin. Untap 2 lands and... Oh, I guess... Well, it's probably a good thing we didn't attack, because if our opponent had Snapcaster Mage. And then we'll untap... Okay, perfect. So our opponent just concedes to that, and because of the fact that they were down to 3 minutes, and is going to try to win the next game in 3 minutes. We will still have to play on the faster side because of that. But one thing that we can definitely do at this point is we can just board into a life gain plan. So I think I like bringing in another Blessed Alliance and a Path. We will cut the Elspeth because I don't think the game's going to get long enough where the Elspeth is even going to be good. And we can cut a... I don't know. Let's cut a Jace. All right, we have about 3 minutes on our opponent. This is the kind of hand that we could definitely lose with. So we will mulligan it. This hand, oh boy, this hand is also not great, but our opponent needs to win quickly. Yeah, I guess we want another land on top. This is the kind of hand that beats the Blood Moon, but that's not what we got going here. We'll put a Teferi on top, I guess. That's better than drawing another land, for sure, at least. We could definitely lose this game if our opponent's jamming Snapcaster Mages and then just beating us down with it. We'll play this Flooded Strand here because we want all the help we can get here. Nope, just Helix us. Okay, that's fine. Fetch here. Get a white source. Draw more lands. Okay. See if our opponent has a Vendilion Click or something like that. Snapcaster. Okay. They're down to 3 cards in hand. All right, there's a path. I don't think our opponent will fight over the path, but I think I'm going to just take this opportunity to verdict our opponent. All right, our opponent doesn't really do anything. We drew a Detention Sphere. There's no reason for us to do anything either. All right, sweet. This is good. There's Jace. I don't know if we're supposed to jam a Jace or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Oh, sweet. It resolves. Take a look at the top card of our opponent's library. We'll put anything that's not a bolt probably on top. Put Logic Knot on the bottom. Okay, sure. We'll do that too. That's fine. Because that can counter our path, which is problematic for us. Sweet. All right, take a look at the top card of our opponent's library here. No, they can have that. We will play Field of Ruin and pass the turn. Bolt us, sure. All right, we'll get rid of their Colonnade now, so we don't have to worry about it. All right, there's Snapcaster Mage, which is a good draw. We'll draw 3 now. Oh, Blessed Alliance is great too. So we'll put back Colonnade and Detention Sphere on top. We'll play this Plains and pass the turn. We can gain some life with the Blessed Alliance. It's a pretty good one, actually. Okay, that resolves. All right, they'll make some tokens. We will cast a Vendilion Click. Target our opponent. They have a Dispel, Logic Knot, Negate. We will let them keep those. Dispel, Logic Knot, Negate. It's good to know. All right, they make the 1/1s. We will just use this to gain 4 life. Our opponent can dispel that. Okay, no. There's our Detention Sphere. We'll use that to get rid of our opponent's Elspeth. Then we'll cast this Teferi. We'll plus, play our land. Plus on our opponent. Put Baneslayer on the bottom. Yes, we'll put Baneslayer on the bottom. And we'll just block with our click. All right, awesome. And our opponent will concede. So that's the important there of playing fast. Our opponent had a good hand and was set up definitely well for the long game, but they had to kind of fly everything at us real quick here. So we were able to get the Jace down and the Teferi down. And I'm not really sure why our opponent didn't negate the Jace. I think they just had F6 because they needed to get through the turn real quick. And there you go. That's how you win a control mirror, is just by being the faster one. This was in paper. This is an interesting note. This was a paper match. We would have absolutely 1-1 drawed. My opponent probably would have played out that second game even longer to make me beat him. And that might have gone to turn. So he either would have won the match 1-0 or it would have been tied 1-1. But because this is Magic Online, I took a little bit less time than my opponent to make my plays. So even though I'm low on clock, my opponent at 1:06 was unable to win the game. And that was that. All right, thanks, guys. And I'll see you at the beginning of round number 4. All right, guys, welcome to the beginning of round number 4. This hand is definitely a little bit land heavy. I'd like to have one more spell in it. But with double Field of Ruin and a Supreme Verdict, we will be able to survive anything except for the fastest of draws. So, like, something like Burn, we're probably, like, 5% against Burn with this hand. Same with Dredge, but we're not going to beat those games. We're not going to beat those those decks game 1 anyway. Something that's fair like this is probably a lot better. I'm assuming this is Jund. Oh, okay. Nope. Scape Shift. All right. Not a great... We're just, in general, just not a great deck against Scape Shift. Double Field of Ruin might help us a little bit, but it's not great. So we'll definitely use this Serum Visions right away to try to make our hand a little bit better against them. Jace and a Serum Visions. Well, the Jace is going to be okay if we can survive that long. So next turn we can play a tapped land and Serum Visions again, drawing the Jace and scrying 2 more. Okay, our opponent plays a Stevo, which is fine. Stevo Bandito. We're not in great shape here. We need a counter spell here. I wanted to top the Jace because we needed something to do. Like, even if we found a counter spell, it probably wasn't going to be good enough to do anything. Well, next turn we can Snapcast our Serum Visions, which I guess is the same as getting 1 more card deep. I don't know. We definitely don't want the Detention Sphere. I think we just need to bottom that too. I just don't think that does enough. This matchup is pretty miserable. Our opponent will be on 5 mana next turn. Our deck's built to beat decks like Humans and Hollow One. It's not really meant to beat decks like Valakut. Even these like Field of Runes don't necessarily do too much. So, like, sure, our opponent next turn can play Valakut, and then we can, like, blow up one of their Valakuts, and then they can just search for more Valakuts. Plus, we have to path their Titan, and it's real bad for us. Okay, so now, of course, they play a Chandra, and the Detention Sphere would have been great, but I bottomed it because I mean, some decks, I guess, play some, like, 2 Chandras, but... All right, and they should probably not cast that Pact. No, okay, so they don't cast the Pact. So we need to kill it before they can get to 7. Oh, they didn't have a land for the turn. That's interesting. All right, so no land for the turn for our opponent. We will play a Field of Ruin, I guess, and pass. We want to get the Field of Ruins on the board as quick as possible. Interesting note about Chandra is that they've changed the wording on Chandra so that you can no longer target Planeswalkers with Chandra, which was previously one of the better things you could do with the Chandra, with the uptick. I believe the -7. Yeah, to any target, but this one only, the +1 only does it to an opponent. So our opponent can add mana with the Chandra and cast a Primeval Titan. And if they do that, we're in a lot of trouble. If they do that, we'll have to use the field. Okay, so now our opponent's just exiling. Oh, Hour of Promise. Yeah, all right. I think we're pretty much done here. Sure, we cast the Hour of Promise. We also need to draw an answer for the Chandra. All right, we drew another Field of Ruin. We'll play the Jace. We just need to hope our opponent doesn't have it here, but they always have it because that's how Valakut and other combo decks like that operate, is that they're incredibly consistent with what they do. We will put Entreat. No, I guess Entreat's better than some of these lands. So we'll put land, Terminus back, and then we'll plan on Terminusing our opponent if they play one of the Titans, and then, I don't know. We're just not in great shape here at all. I think we're just going to get hit by a Chandra Ultimate, and that's going to be it. Okay, so there's the prime time. Yeah, okay, so they're going to get 2 Valakuts here, and then play a Valakut for the turn, probably hit our Jace. Play a land for the turn. Add 2 red. Farsi, kill a Jace. I'm just going to concede here. Next turn, we can use the Field of Ruin to blow up Valakuts, but then we can't cast our what's it called? Our Terminus, and our opponent's just going to ultimate the Chandra and beat us that way. So we just have no outs from this point. All right, so some cards that are reasonable in this matchup include Vendilion Click, Negate, that might be it. This isn't a good matchup. I guess Dispel can hit their Summoner's Pact. Damping Spear doesn't really do anything. Cards that are bad in this matchup are Terminus. And also Path. But, I mean, I didn't build the deck with this. All right, so here's a clock. So we'll put a clock in, I guess, and we'll put both of our clocks in. We'll cut all the Terminus, and Path isn't great, so we'll do that. Also Timely. So Timely's worse than that, so we'll get the Path back. And maybe just, keep in the 1 Verdict in case we need. Yeah, all right, so we'll do this. We'll cut these 5, keep those 5, and submit. And this has been a weird league, guys. I mean, we've played mostly good decks, you know, mostly tier 1 decks or tier 2 decks at the minimum, but we just haven't run into any of the creature matchups that this deck shines against. This hand we're going to keep. I mean, there's no way we're going to find a better 6 than this. We'll fetch basic here, and that means that we can turn 1 Visions, turn 2 Escanta without screwing up our draw or our fetching. One way we can theoretically win this matchup is if we start stringing together Cryptics and Snapcasters. We are not even remotely as good at that as some other decks like Grixis or I guess we don't even want Field of Ruin, right? Like Field of Ruin just doesn't. I mean, I guess it's good like late game, but yeah, I think our best way to win this game is to not rely on Field of Ruin. It's to try to counter our opponent's stuff as it comes down. And next turn I will probably just fetch with the Flooded Strand. Okay, our opponent has a Relic, which is very good for our opponent. Just go ahead and get another island here because our double white isn't super important here. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to flip this as content anytime soon, which is unfortunate. The fact that our opponent led on Mountain leads me to believe that they probably only have Cinderglades in their hand. So we could see a tapped Cinderglade here, unless they just drew a forest or a fetch off the top. Okay, so they drew a Stomping Ground off the top, and they're just going to play it tapped. Interesting. So they don't have any ramp with this hand. So maybe they kept a hand really reliant on the Relic of Progenitus. Opt in the graveyard. No, let's keep that. Play Serum Visions. There's Field of Ruin, all right. And there's another Field of Ruin. So maybe we should just try to flood the board with Field of Ruins. Top that. Bottom the Telling Time, I guess, trying to find a Planeswalker of some sort. And then we can play the Serum Visions again to set up our draw for the next turn. There we go. There's Planeswalker. So we'll bottom that, top the Jace, play a Field of Ruin, and pass. Another reason why I'm trying to cast a lot of spells here is because I want to fill our graveyard. Because if we do want to Logic Knot something, we want to be able to Logic Knot it. If our opponent is going to use the Relic, it's going to be really hard for us to have enough cards in the graveyard for our spells to, or for our Logic Knot to counter things. See if our opponent has another land. Okay, they do. We would not like to put Jace in the graveyard. We love Jace. Draw. All right, we'll play another Field of Ruin here. Our opponent with the Mountain up leads me to believe they probably have a Bolt. So I think we want to take a look at the top card of our opponent's library and put any win condition to the bottom. Anything that's not a win condition, they can probably have. A land they can keep, I guess. The deck is like mostly lands. I don't think we can beat a deck that's mostly lands by putting lands on the bottom. We also don't. They haven't missed a land drop yet, and they might be flooded. Okay, there's a Chandra. Fortunately, we're set up a little bit better to beat a card like Chandra this game than last because we have this Cryptic command. And we've already have a Jace on board by the time our opponent cast it. Okay, so our opponent does have another card in there. So putting the land on top was correct because our opponent had a land in addition to that one. There we go. Took a while to say. Field of Ruin in the graveyard. So I guess that's our plan, is that we're just going to Field of Ruin our opponent out. So no, we will not put it in the graveyard. And we'll draw. And we're going to Brainstorm here. Oh, there's a Teferi. I definitely want to resolve a Teferi here, I think. 6 next turn is... Yeah, 6 is always a rough one because that's where the Chandra can start. Or that's where they can start playing their good cards. So let's see. We'll put, I guess, Island there, and we'll play Glacial Fortress. I want to be able to hold up the Cryptic Command here because we cannot really beat just a Escape Shift or something like that. If our opponent goes like Ramp Spell into land into Escape Shift, we would just be dead. Okay, we'll exile a Serum Visions. I believe our opponent forgot to make us exile last turn. I don't particularly think that's important, but... And we'll definitely use our Search for Escante to get rid of the island that is on top of our library. If our opponent doesn't do anything this turn, we might just bounce the Chandra. Okay, we can let our opponent cast a Search for Tomorrow. That's fine. I think we already kind of stated that we're not going to win this game by making our opponent... by beating our opponent on lands. Okay, sure. So you have a Search for Tomorrow. So just something real quick here, what we're going to do here, because we know that the top 2 cards of our library are islands, and we don't want either of them. We're going to put 1 island in the graveyard, and then we're going to opt, during our upkeep, also put that at the bottom. Okay, and there's a 3rd island. Either that or the Scrybug, one of those 2. And we will play another island and Brainstorm with the Jace. The Dispel's actually not bad either. So we'll put back land, and mill the top one with the Escanta. All right, so our opponent's going to be able to tick the Chandra up to 7 here. Okay, and our opponent's just going to... Okay, so this is good for us. Means our opponent wants to try to force a little bit of action here. All right, there's a Valakut. So we will definitely just go ahead and get rid of the Valakut if we don't have to tap out this turn. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, 6. So if our opponent has land into... Yeah, so we have to let this Search for Tomorrow resolve. And they can deal us 3 damage. That's fine. I wonder if they'll decide to duel it at Jace. Okay, so they are going to do it at Jace. All right, so Jace takes a few. Bolt the Jace. That, I think we will go ahead and Dispel. This goes really poorly if they are now going to minus this and play a 6 mana card, but I think we're okay with that. The number of cards that, yeah, damn it. All right, not good for us. Okay, so there's a Primeval Titan. They can search for their things. I guess we'll go ahead and get rid of the Valakut now. So our opponent will need to get a Valakut plus a land in order to kill the Jace here. This might not have been played exactly perfect, kind of now that I'm thinking about it, but it's all right. So they'll be able to get land and a Valakut to kill the Jace here. Which is what they do. Okay. Put Telling Time into our graveyard. Yes, we need to get rid of that. And, of course, there's another Telling Time on top because Magic Online. All right, so we are going to, I think, here, Field of Ruin, our opponent's Valakut. Then, during our opponent's upkeep, we'll Cryptic Command to tap the Primeval Titan and bounce the Chandra so that it doesn't ultimate. Although that's just a temporary measure. We don't really have anything else that we can do. The other thing I guess we could do is we could play Teferi and we could minus to mount, put the Jace like 3 cards under. But then the Primeval Titan's actually going to get to attack here. All right, so we'll get an island here. I think that just has to be our play. It's that, and then during our opponent's draw step, we will make that play that I suggested. All right, so draw step 3, 4. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Tap all creatures the opponent controls. All right, so there's that. Then our opponent can play it again and plus it. But at least it's not going to ultimate. We'll be able to flip our Azcanta next turn. Yeah, so I guess I should not. For some reason, it just I assumed that because our opponent was bolting the Jace, that meant that they didn't have another land into Primeval Titan, because they would have just played the land, hit the Jace, and then cast the Primeval Titan, I think. But maybe they were just baiting the... I don't know. Okay, and they got Escape Shift. One, two, three. So they have 1 Stomping Ground, 3 Cinder Glades, 2 mountains left, I think. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2 Valakuts. Yeah, that makes us very dead. So it's possible we should not have Field of Ruined our opponent, so we could hold up Negate here. But, I mean, I think if we held up Negate, then our opponent would have just played, you know, another Primeval Titan, which we were still dead to. So, I mean, let me know in the comments how you would have played this, but I think I played this the way that I wanted to, and we just lost because this is a bad matchup. I don't really think I necessarily punted very much. I guess maybe dispelling that bolt was still real bad. If this is a version with only 3 Valakuts, they need to actually have 6 lands that are mountains. And yeah, okay, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20. Yep, we're dead. Hi, guys. Welcome back to round number 5. We have won this dice roll. This hand's also on the real low side of borderline. If our opponent's playing a creature deck, this is probably really good. If they're not playing a creature deck, it's not great, but I think it's probably just better than an average 6. I don't know, because I think, if we would keep 4 lands, a path, and a verdict every time, because we're on the play, we have a little bit more time to set up. All right, opponent's on a Steam Vent, so it might be another mirror match, so I got to play fast. We will play Hallowed Fountain tapped and pass. Okay, opt means probably Storm, maybe? Okay, so I guess it is Storm. So we want to find some way to interact with Storm. I guess finding more opts isn't the worst. There's definitely worse things out there than opts. All right, we found another opt even. I don't think we can tap. So even if we were to opt into Search for Azcanta here, I don't think we can play it because we would just lose probably if we just tapped out. So I think I like just playing a land so that we can opt. We have 2 cards in the hand that aren't great in the matchup at all. So we got that going for us at least. If our opponent has gifts into our, what's it called? Ritual into gifts here, they'll probably play it right now. If they have remand, they might even play it. Okay, so we'll definitely take the Azcanta, and we'll put a card on top. We'll put the Flooded Strand on top. Because we need to start doing something here, and I mean, playing a Search for Azcanta is certainly something. There's not really much in our deck that we can do that's better, honestly, than play Azcanta, so we'll do it. Just hope our opponent doesn't kill us here. Opponent has 8 cards in hand. All right, so there's an Electromancer. That's fine. Response to the first thing, we'll probably path it. Opponent missed a land drop, so I don't really know if I want to exactly path it, but I think we will. Opponent doesn't have... So our opponent F6 so fast, they probably definitely don't have remand. So that's good to note. Put that on the bottom. There's a Snapcaster Mage. That's a good draw. Probably flip this search. It would have to be something great to not flip it. I don't think Jace is good enough. We'll definitely transform because we want the extra mana here. Opponent has 8 cards in their library again. So you will activate the Azcanta end of the turn to try to draw some counter magic or something. Our opponent should probably cast something here. Get a Serum Visions. Nope. Okay, our opponent's just moving to discard. Discard's a Past in Flames. Interesting. Play a Serum Visions. Bottom both of these cards. Play a land. You guys cast Serum Visions again. Top a Telling Time, I guess, but game 1 we're not really set up to win this matchup, so there's a lot of bad cards on our mat in here. Gifts. I guess we just let that resolve. Like, all right. We will put the rituals, because our opponent doesn't have a mana creature. We'll put the rituals in our opponent's graveyard. So we'll go ritual in the graveyard. They probably should have gotten lands. They've been missing land drops. They drew a land, all right. So there's Baral, that's fine. And then we will go ahead and path the Baral. Opponent casts a Manamorphose in response. So it's 2, 5, 6 mana, and this costs 5 to flash back. So I think we need to snap path the Baral before our opponent can cast another ritual. So now we just need to hope our opponent doesn't have another ritual. Okay, Manamorphose is not another ritual. That's good. They don't actually gain anything on that. They still need another ritual. Same deal. So now we need to draw a counter spell to counter the Manamorphose. Oh, okay. Our opponent's just casting a large Grape Shot at us. That's fine. So it does not look like our opponent's going to be able to go off next turn. Oh, they just have another Grape Shot. Okay, well, that's fine. All right, cards I like in this matchup. Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere is great. Vendilion Click. Negate. Dispel. Rest in Peace. There we go. Celestial Purge. You could definitely make an argument that we should bring in a clock, like a Baneslayer Angel. So maybe on the Baneslayer Angel. Cards that I don't really like in this matchup are Condemn, because our opponent doesn't do very much attacking. Path, honestly, isn't even all that great. Our opponent takes out a lot of their mana creatures. All the Terminuses are probably gone. The Supreme Verdict is fine, because we need some way to interact with our opponent if they're going for the creatures. Timely's not great. And I like usually cutting like one Jace. As you saw that game, we even milled the Jace. It's just not fast enough. All right, we'd love to play first. This is a great hand. It has Opt, Damping Spheres, Search for Ascantas. So we'll play this. We need more lands. We also need some... specifically, we need blue lands, I guess. That's what I should have said. Opponent just tap land there. That's interesting. We should stop our opponent on our main phase. That's just, playing well. Oh, well, rest in peace. All right, so this turn here, we will play our Damping Sphere. Then next turn, we will play our Rest in Peace. Okay, so there's the Pyromancer's Ascension. That's fine. Pyromancer's Ascension gets turned off real easily by Rest in Peace, which is one of the things I like about it. All right, so our opponent plays a Goblin Electromancer, which is fine with us. We do need to hit our land drops. So we will opt, hopefully hit a land, and then play Azcanta. Perfect. It's going to be really hard for our opponent, I believe, to kill us here. So I think we can tap out safely here. This is a remand. Oh, it's a negate. Wow. Okay. So that's fine because Azcanta isn't actually all that good with Rest in Peace. So our opponent hits us down to 17. There's a Field of Ruin. All right, so that's a land for sure. Let's cast the Serum Visions. It's a Tension Sphere. All right. There's a Celestial Purge and an Opt. We will bottom the Opt and top the Celestial Purge because we want an answer to that Goblin Electromancer. We currently have Logic Knot up unless our opponent pays 2. All right, and I'll just go ahead and purge it now. Opponent remands it. Okay, that's fine. Go down to 13, that's fine. Sure. Card doesn't do anything. All right, we drew a land, which is great. I think here we will just go ahead and pass the turn. Sure, they can cast a Serum Visions. We will, if they top some cards, we'll Field of Ruin them, so they can't draw them. Yeah, they put 2 cards on top. Perfect. So we will go ahead and Field of Ruin our opponent now. Just go ahead and get an island. We'll take the damage here, and we'll Celestial Purge our opponent at their end step. There's the Purge. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and get a tap land here. We'll probably use it during our turn. Right. And we'll definitely play lands because each land we play fuels our Logic Knots. We don't care about this Detention Sphere. This Detention Sphere is to, if our opponent goes off with goblins, just use it for that. We'll go to 9 is fine. All right, so now we'd like to draw some action off the top. A Cryptic Command's great. We already know that our opponent has used a couple of counterspells. They've used a Remand and a Negate. Serum Visions. Sure. All right, they put 2 cards on top. All right, there's a Glacial Fortress. The fact that they put a sleight of hand, they discarded sleight of hand to hand size, makes me believe that they. I don't even know what that makes me believe. Baral. Let's just Cryptic Command that. Counter this and draw a card. All right, there's Teferi. Teferi is a great card draw. So we'll go ahead and play Teferi. Draw a card. Sweet. And then we can untap 2 lands. It's going to be really hard for our opponent to beat us now, I think. We'll be able to ultimate this Teferi in a few turns. Pieces of the puzzle. Let's counter this unless you pay. We're going to use the Logic Knot now because the Logic Knot's a lot worse. So we'll counter this unless you pay 3. All right, there's a Vendilion Click. Vendilion Click's a good clock for our opponent. We'll play this Colonnade. And I'm going to go ahead and play the Click now because of how the Damping Sphere works. All right, so what does our opponent have? Our opponent has a Repeal, a Giga Drowse, Desperate Rituals, stuff like that. So I guess we're just going to put the Repeal on the bottom of our opponent's library because it's going to be almost impossible for them to win without removing the Damping Sphere. All right, so we'll untap those 2. So we know our opponent's hand minus the Repeal and 1 more card. All right, so they have a Goblin Electromancer. Yeah, that's fine. I'll even path that, I think. Sure. So we'll go ahead and path that. All right, there's a Colonnade. Plus with the Teferi, draw another Rest in Peace, which we will cast. I guess we'll also cast a Serum Visions. Bottom and bottom. And then we'll attack our opponent. This might be the turn our opponent goes for the Giga Drowse. All right, there's a Field of Ruin. We will draw a card. Wow, we're just not getting anywhere with these. Get in there for 3. And then we will sacrifice this and try to, I guess, get them off some red mana. We were gonna untap our lands anyway with the Teferi plus, so I think I like doing this. Opponent's still not going for the Giga Drowse. We do know a majority of their hand. All right, so there's an opt. Do we want to just... So whenever I draw a card, I can exile a permanent my opponent controls. So I guess we'll just do that. Then I'll opt, which will let me exile one of their permanents. Sure, we'll draw a Cryptic Command. And that will exile that Steam Vents. Sure. Opponent casts a Gifts. We will counter that and draw a card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exile a Spirebluff Canal. Opponent's going to go for a Giga Drowse here, I think. So they're tapping those 2. This costs 6, I believe. Okay. Got it. All right, if our opponent can beat us here, I'll be very impressed. Sure, so now they're going to get double red out of this, but then each ritual costs 3. Sure. So we know they use this and the Giga Drowse. The Past in Flames does nothing. They have a couple of rituals, but each ritual costs 1 more. All right, awesome. So our opponent concedes. Anything we want to change in this sideboard? Not really. I think maybe on the play it's important that we have another path, just so that we don't die, like, instantaneously. We can cut, like, an Entreat the Angels. I just don't see us winning that way. Maybe that's better than it's a Baneslayer Angel. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so, yeah, I guess that's just better than a Baneslayer Angel, though. Wow, this hand. Oh, can I keep this hand? Wow, we've got 3 sideboard cards, 2 of which are great, but only 1 land. The land deck has 24 lands, so that means that we have 2 draw steps, 24, 50, so 23. We're like 28% to miss. All right, we'll keep it. We're going to live risky. Yeah, 28% to miss. I think I'm okay with that, because also we have the path, which means we're probably just not dead turn 3. So if we can survive another turn and play a Damping Sphere or something like that, I think we'd be okay. Land. Yeah, we did it. All right, so we'll start off with this, because we definitely need to get a white source. Okay, so our opponent plays a Baral. And I think we are just going to go ahead and path the Baral now. Just get that off the table. Then we'll play a Damping Sphere. All right, there's a Serum Visions. So we will play a Damping Sphere, because Damping Sphere also shuts off their other Storm cards. They drew a land for the turn. Okay, and then they're just playing another... Okay, so that's good. So they will not be able to cast another spell this turn. All right, so we need to decide now if we want to play Rest in Peace or Serum Visions. And I think we just want to play Serum Visions. And we want to top both of these lands like this. Top. All right, so we did miss a land drop here, but still not the end of the world, because we have a nice hate card out that our opponent needs to find an answer for. All right, so our opponent plays a Pieces of the Puzzle. They reveal... All right, so they put away the Giga Drowse and the Ritual. So they have Wipe Away, Serum Visions, Pieces of the Puzzle are the cards they have on top still. All right. So we'll go ahead and cast a Rest in Peace here. So our opponent still has Wipe Away, which is good to know. We are drawing another land next turn, and we will not be able to cast Cryptic Command with that mana. Our opponent now has a Repeal. So none of these other cards are good. So we know that our opponent has Repeal, Pieces of the Puzzle, Serum Vision. did they, hold on, what did they do? Put repeal into their hand, and the other time they put, so I believe these are just the ones that we know about. They put ritual reveals, puts pieces of the puzzle and wipe. Okay, so though they don't have this Serum Visions. That's good to know. Okay. So we'll play that land and pass. Our opponent at the end of the turn is going to wipe away our Damping Sphere, and then they're going to probably try to go off. No, not yet. Okay, so they don't see the need to go off yet. We will Field of Ruin, I guess, at the end of the turn because we need another blue source. It's one of the reasons I didn't do anything that turn. If our opponent wants to go for the wipe away during their turn, that's not the best use of their mana, so I'm happy about that. And now we just want to hit land drops. There's a land. I'm not sure what... Oh, our opponent failed to find. Interesting. So they definitely didn't mean to do that. All right, so there's the gifts. I think we will just go ahead and counter this and draw a card. Actually, I guess we'll use this Logic Knot. We'll counter it unless our opponent pays 2. Because we can't really use that effectively under the Rest in Peace usually. So, yep, that's good. All right, so there's another pieces. They get probably pieces ritual out of this. Puts pieces visions. Okay, so they went pieces visions. Now they cast the visions. Okay. They put 2 cards on the bottom. And then they discard the hand size. They put repeal. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay. Let's play a Jace and draw 3 cards. This gives us the best chance at hitting our land drop. Okay, cool. So we will put back Visions and Teferi on top and play this Plains. All right, cool. So now we have a negate. Our opponent does have a wipe away still, which they probably will need to use soon. We do know that they have a pieces. All right, looks like this is the turn that they're going to try it. They're still discarding the hand size. It's going to be hard for them to storm. They only have 26 cards in their library. Draw some cards with this Jace. Okay, sweet. So we drew another land. We'll put Serum. I guess we'll put Entreat second from the top. So we'll put Entreat and then Serum Visions, probably because we're going to draw a card off the Cryptic command, which we're almost certainly going to cast this turn. All right, so our opponent's not really doing anything. One thing we can do here is we can Cryptic command to put one of their lands in their hand and make them discard to hand size. Don't really like that, though. We'll just make them discard to hand size regularly. All right, so there's that. We'll draw with the Jace again. There's another second Damping Sphere. That's great. We will put these 2 back. Play the second Damping Sphere. Great. All right. All right, so now we're just in a holding pattern here. We'll draw, put, I guess, what are the worst of these cards? Probably Path and Entreat the Angels on top. We'll cast a Serum Visions. I'm not terribly in danger here of losing the game. If we cast another Serum Visions, it'll cost us 3 mana, but we'll hit a land drop for the turn. All right, so we'll bottom that, we'll top that, play our land, and pass the turn. All right, now we could start plussing the Jace, targeting our opponent. Put Pyromancers. No, you can have that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll play Teferi. Sure, our opponent remans the Teferi. That's fine. And we'll pass the turn. Opponent wipes away our Rest in Peace. Okay, that's fine. And we will discard Entreat the Angels to hand size. So it looks like our opponent might have to go for it here. Sure, they cast a Pyromancer's Ascension, which is fine. I'm not going to fight them on that. I don't think we know any more cards in our opponent's library. Okay, sure, they have some rituals, that's fine. Their next spell is going to cost them like 4 mana or something like that, something crazy. This might have to be goblins, and then we'll just Attention Sphere the goblins. All right, and our opponent concedes. All right, so as you can see, the deck is definitely has some power. We were able to beat Storm. We were able to beat a crappy Soul Sisters deck, and we were able to beat a mirror match, a Jeskai mirror match. I think we won the Jeskai match just because I'm a little bit more experienced with the deck than I guess our opponent is. You can see that it doesn't have some very weak matchups. The Death Shadow matchup shouldn't be as bad as you saw there, but it's not great. The fact that Terminus is counterable is a real cost and requires you to play a little bit differently, like where Supreme Verdict is not. On the other hand, the Valakut matchup is just awful, I think, for all versions of blue-white, especially the fact that our sideboard is geared more with hate cards to beat matchups like Storm than it is to beat matchups like Valakut. Like, if we had more negates and disdainful strokes and stuff like that, it probably would be a little bit better, but that was just not the matchups we had in mind. We broke even today. Let's open the one chest to see what we got. Let's see. All right, we got a Celestial Colonnade. Look at that. That's like 21 ticks or 23 ticks. So we definitely pulled ahead today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know about the deck, the audio, the video, and I'll try to improve for next time. Thanks, everyone.